Welcome to my humble abode. I'm Yorkie the Talespinner, and this is Tales Over Coffee, our morning show where we start the day together with a narrative tale and a coffee, in the hope of welcoming a blessed day. And this is Suzerain, continuing tale of the almost certainly failed presidency of Anton Ray. Now, Chapter 3, Victims of Change. A call from Marcel Caronti. We don't like him. We're on turn 6. I did look up how many turns there are, and apparently it's 12. I didn't look up what those turns are, of course, or what the decisions available are. Officer, the President of Sordland, Maroon Palace. I was in my office looking through the agenda for the upcoming meeting of the Ministry of Economy. The meeting was going to be about the ownership of the Big Four. The four largest companies in Sordland: Heart of Sordland, Burgess Steel, Sordage State, and Dam Mining Group. Some of these companies were controlled in part or entirely by the state. The others were mostly or completely privatized. I had the power to change that. The phone rang and I put the agenda down. Pick up the phone. Greetings, Mr. President. I'm sorry to disturb you before such an important meeting. Hang on. Is he who I'm thinking of? The businessman, yes. We're not really in bed with business. For such an important meeting, but I thought now would be a good time to talk about our arrangement. I'll agree to support that I am my net. Oh, so it is the nothing but beneficial. It is the it is the media magnate, yes, who we're kind of in bed with. But he hasn't done that much for us. Half of the non-state media in the country has been sharing positive news about you and downplaying negative events. Only half, though. Our partnership has been successful so far. I'm glad you agree. Your public opinion could have nosedived were it not for us. Or it could have risen further if you'd done more. I heard him knock on wood. On another note, I know it has been a while, but I have to give credit where it's due, or overdue in this case. Your business bailout greatly benefited certain subsidiaries of HOS that were reporting record losses. We managed to avoid closing those companies, and they satisfied the board of HOS with a high profit to report in return. I'm glad to hear that. It was a widely contested decision. We've helped you. It must have been a hard choice. It is safe to say that you picked the right one. He paused for a few seconds. Out of goodwill, I will share a key piece of information. The Lothar Group has contingency plans if you decide to do anything rash that would disrupt their empires. You can't blame them, can you? Imagine someone trying to take your authority and personal wealth away without your consent. We will only ask for a reasonable share, nothing out of the ordinary. That is good to hear. If everyone plays their cards right, it will all be fine. Now, let's talk about those cards. Since the start of your campaign, you've adamantly proposed a planned economy. Going by that, I'm worried that you will attempt to nationalise Sordland's largest private corporations. Nationalisation as a concept goes against everything my father built and stood for. You may recall that one of the terms of our agreement was that I may ask you for one favour. Well, this is it. I wasn't going to touch HOS. That's excellent to hear. I knew we would be on the same page. I am raising my glass to you right now, Mr. President. There is actually one more thing I would like to discuss. Mr. Tusk is unfit to be the spokesperson for the Lothar Group. His archaic thinking has only preserved a status quo that benefits himself and precious few others. It is high time to change that. What do you have in mind to replace him? Who do you think you could do worse? Here's what I propose, a win-win situation. If you could use your powers to make Burgess Steel Tusk's main company state-owned, he would lose considerable influence. Fits in with the planned economy, which means I could take over. If I take over with your help, I will be forever indebted to you, and support you in all your goals, be the re-election or something more. How does that sound? Honestly, Marcel, that sounds profitable. Perfect. Well then, I have taken up enough of your time today. This has been a productive call. Thank you for your time, Mr. President. Thank you, Marcel. I'm not against that. It supports the planned economy and looks good for us in that way. At the same time, it puts an ally in a position of power. After a couple of minutes, I went back to reviewing the agenda. Requested meeting of Lucien Gallard, Officer President of Sordland. Lucien scheduled some time with me to discuss potentially political repercussions of the upcoming economic meeting. He arrived on time as usual and took his seat right across from me. Good morning, Mr. President. Lucien had dark circles below his eyes. The plethora of economic developments must have been weighing over an alcoholic like him. Look a bit tired. Are you getting enough sleep? I'm trying to, sir. Don't push yourself too much. I'll try not to. I must say you don't look much better. I looked at myself in a small hand mirror. Similar circles were beneath my eyes as well. It's an interesting thing. People think it's a great job leading a nation. But if you look at the end of a president's term in the US versus the beginning, most of them look more than 4 to 8 years older, often by a long way. I booked some of your time pre-planned for today's meeting at the Ministry of Economy. We plan to be cautious, and we need to be cautious. Any grand plans about the economy also heavily influence our political standings. We'll be changing our relationship with the old guard, the oligarchs, and the opposition. As you know, this meeting will give you the opportunity to alter the ownership of the Big Four, the largest corporations in all of Sordland. We can start the process of nationalisation or privatisation, or we can just keep the status quo. Again, I remind you that any change will tip an already fragile balance. I personally think we should stay out of this and keep things as they are. There is no need to make new political enemies at this stage of our term. But ultimately the decision is yours. What are you leaning towards? How should we move forward? I didn't want to nationalise all of them. See, this is my one complaint about the game. It is a good game. But it is not refined enough in its decision making. There's only one I really want to move on: nationalisation. I don't want to nationalise HOS, but I do want to nationalise who is this place? Why? Yes, the first. It's true that more control we have, the better. Your administration still bears responsibility if we let the oligarchs determine the course of the country. One thing to remember is that since you've been transparent about promoting a planned economy, nationalisation will not cost us much support. Lucien took a note in his notebook. I received a report from the Ministry of Economy that may impact your decision. Unfortunately, we have missed our government budget targets for the current quarter. Yes, I know. The plan to change the ownership of important assets could help us generate much needed resources to further improve economic developments before the next election. Just something to consider, as is our relationship with the oligarchs. I'll be right back. Well, I'm back, hatless, from real life. Let's finish off this meeting, and that's where we'll end it for today. We might be aiming for nationalisation, but we need to remember that they only care about their own profits. Fortunately, we aren't on good terms with them. This situation has been obstructing some of our efforts in economic recovery. If our nationalisation plan hurts their assets too much, we may end up at war with the men who control much of the economy. If we nationalise only a part of their companies, perhaps we can afford confrontation. Yes, that's the only kind of nationalisation they'd accept. I'm sure that Tusk will have further requests afterwards, though. Some of the connections indicate that there seems to be a contest for leadership in the Lotherberg group. Looks like Marcel Carpe is making moves to become the key figure. Carpe probably wants his father's seat at the head of the group, and Tusk doesn't want to let go of it. It's a significant power struggle considering these are the heads of Sordland's two largest private corporations. Because we are going down the path of nationalisation, we will have the power to tip the balance towards either side. Since you've already made the decision to nationalise, you need to be decisive in your follow-up actions. Did Marcel or Tusk contact you? I've received a call from Marcel. What did he ask for? Don't worry, I have it under control. Mr. President, if you are not transparent with me, I can't help you to the best of my ability. Very well, sir, I won't push you further. At any rate, this internal conflict among the oligarchs puts us in an interesting position. Our relationship with Walter Tusk hasn't been good so far. Any move we make now has to be calculated and thought through. Lucian looked at his watch. Very well, it's almost time. I'll inform Mr. Hall of your decision, and he will make the necessary preparations to formulate a plan. I must get back to work now. See you at the next meeting. Thank you for your time, sir. Lucian got up from his chair and left the office. And we'll round up with the 2 news articles before next time we try and prey on Tusk. Arcasia, having been granted an early access to Ellery Air Base, has been running joint military drills with Swordish planes. The exercise is indicative of deepening trust between the country and Arcasia following the deal, during which Arcasia also promised Sordland financial, logistical, and equipment support. Tensions keep rising in the Marchian Sea. Something's going to kick off there. According to reports of the Agnolian government, the Valslandian fleet, which has been patrolling the Marchian Sea, was directly responsible for the disappearance of 2 fishing vessels, a drilling ship and an oil tanker. Oh my. Belonging to Agnolia, Prime Minister Van Herten called the Alliance of Nations to investigate the incidents. Prime Minister Van Herten condemned Chancellor Hegel in his speech yesterday, saying the Chancellor is trying to imprison us on our homes with a show of strength, but he should know Agnolians are not scared. Right, and that, although it may be a short episode, I'm not sure, is where we will end it for now. I've been Yorkie the Talespinner, you've been a fine audience, and this has been Suzerain. See you on.